how you could make your closest love relationship more harmonious and secure? Have you thought about how you could be accessible, responsive, and emotionally engaged with your loved one? Love relationships are really all about having a secure emotional bond, just as a baby does with its parents. Yet in my office, I hear women say that they hate how they sound like a bitch to their husband. And he says he feels so small. When she asks if he's listening, he says yes, but tries to fake it when asked what she was just saying. Oh man, are you in big trouble when you do that? She feels that he doesn't care if he's not listening. And he feels overwhelmed by all the talk and can't listen. That sounds like a no-win situation, but it doesn't have to be like that. Of course, these days, everyone's so busy and stressed that it's totally understandable that some people end up like roommates or having fiery arguments that go nowhere. Too many people seem to believe that if they really love each other, they will naturally know what the other person needs and they'll stay in love. And if they don't, it must mean that they weren't meant to be together. Well, that's a little bit like saying that an athlete who has talent can go to the Olympic Games and win without ever training. If we neglected our kids the way many people neglect their relationships, the child welfare authorities would be there in a flash. A lot of couples are really trying to give, doing a lot to help each other. They feel that they're really trying to please their partner. And yet what I see is that they're really not tuned in to what the other person needs at a deeper level. Each person has a unique life experience. So it's totally understandable that our perspective is different from our partners. Being accessible, responsive, and emotionally engaged may be as simple as holding our partner when they're distressed. Emotionally focused couple therapy, which I'll refer to as EFT, helps couples to de-escalate their arguments and then reweave the bond into a secure, loving connection. Emotions are a powerful source of information about our needs and how we experience our relationship. One of the hallmarks of EFT is a deep understanding of what goes on in a couple when one of the partners is pursuing a connection and the other one is pulling back and shutting down. The pursuer may sound like they are nagging and blaming and criticizing, yet underneath the surface, a lot of the time they're feeling very alone in their relationship, rejected, abandoned, and as if their partner doesn't really care when they can't get a reaction from that person. So on a deeper level, the pursuer is actually trying to connect and maintain the relationship, even though the behavior comes across as attacking. Now, the withdrawer may head off to the den and not seem to care. In the middle of an argument, they just disappear. They've tried to defend themselves, and yet a wall has come up because underneath they're feeling anxious or scared in the face of their partner's anger. And so the withdrawer is also trying to maintain the relationship by keeping the peace rather than blowing up and adding fuel to the fire. One couple that I saw, the husband, a very talkative man, was the pursuer, and his wife was the withdrawer. So in the middle of an argument, she would feel his wall physically coming up. Her toes would go numb, her whole body would go numb. She started saying to him, wall. As soon as her toes went numb, Whoa. He respected that by being quiet until she was ready to listen again, which might be a couple of minutes. And in the meantime, he softened his message so that when she was ready to listen again, she became less defensive because he had softened the way he was approaching her. It's important to understand that neither the pursuer nor the withdrawer is the bad guy. The enemy is the negative cycle that takes on a life of its own. Once it gets triggered, it goes like an infinity loop. It just keeps going. In EFT, couples learn to battle that negative cycle together as if it were a dragon. And the therapist helps them to weave together the strands of a loving bond. When couples get into a conflict, essentially they are fighting for a secure connection. One couple who had been doing really well hit a huge pothole recently and went back into the negative cycle. And when they came in to see me, the pursuer said how very sad she felt and how hopeless she felt. A couple of months ago, they'd been doing so well that they were falling in love again. And here she was, she made reference to how she was just feeling in despair about the relationship. She was saying this to me, even though her partner was sitting over here. She couldn't make eye contact with her partner. And when I asked her about saying the things that she was talking about to her partner, she said she was too angry to do that. The withdrawer was also very sad, and then went on to share about how much the marriage meant to them. And that actually started a shift, so that by the end of the session, neither one of them was angry, and they were both quite hopeful. They would not have struggled that much with that conflict had their relationship not meant a great deal to them. Emotionally focused couple therapy acts like a roto-rooter going down through the layers of our relationship, from our perceptions, our behavior, our emotions, both the things that we say we feel and what we really feel, down to the deep levels of what our needs are for acceptance and love, warts and all. When we can share those vulnerable feelings and needs for attachment with our partner, we can begin to empathize with one another. And then that can create a positive cycle of interaction between the two of us, in which the withdrawer can step out from behind the wall and be themselves and no longer feel that they don't have a voice. The pursuer softens their approach and can start talking about how they were afraid that their partner wasn't going to be there for them. Once they get to that point, couples sometimes say that their relationship is now better and easier than it's ever been. A lot of people don't know how to nurture a relationship. So what can you do to help yourselves? Well, first off, I would highly recommend this book, Hold Me Tight by Dr. Sue Johnson, who is the developer of emotionally focused couple therapy. This book has recently been on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. And it's a book to really help us talk about those things in our heart and guts that aren't always easy to talk about with our partner. Now, of course, it's also really important always to have fun. So whether you go fly a kite together, or do mini golfing, or whether you take up rollerblading or roller coasting, not that I'm doing any of those, but do something together that can get you laughing. Now, if you really can't go out and you can't leave home, have a picnic on the living room rug and play Monopoly and forget about the crumbs. So just make sure that you have some fun together, get away from your daily cares, even for a few minutes. And remember to hug your honey. Mr. Tusker.